So Matt, first of all, thanks a lot for taking the time to be in our video series. So I'd just be interested in perhaps your view on where you think we are now and maybe where the industry is. And then as a sort of addendum, how bad is ESG data? We have so much of it precisely because it's inefficient in the way that people fill out these surveys and everything. So can you just talk a bit about how much it took to solve that problem?
ESG data is something that continues to evolve. The good news, it's evolving rapidly and has significantly over the past 10 years. But let's just still be honest about where we're at. If we have, for example, credit ratings, correlation between different rating providers ends up being roughly a 0.9. That's not the case with ESG data. It ranges anywhere from a 0.38 to 0.71. So it doesn't even get to the top end of what traditionally investors expect from a way to look at different ratings in the financial world. But what I would also say as a counter to that is the coverage of data and the coverage of data with companies across asset classes has rapidly improved. And we capture that with our platform because the Suzy engine has now 25,000 issuers that are covered. We have a range of roughly 90% of the large caps covered with ESG data. And mid caps, it's roughly 80%. And with small cap, we're at 70. 10 years ago, we couldn't have had those numbers. So the data continues to evolve. The coverage is getting to a place where it's, I won't call it ubiquitous, but it's certainly something that you can rely upon as gathering that information to start your discussions with companies with a set of tools that you didn't have in the past. And we've worked to organize all that information and supplement it with proprietary information into that platform as well. We have 24 different specific industry insights on key ESG factors. We've put together 200 ESG profiles. We have over 500 engagements all written down about where we're at with those ongoing discussions. And maybe on that one, I will just say part of the joy I've had over the past year and a half with working really with the equity team, and let's say since you arrived with Alex, is engagements that we're doing jointly together and grabbing that information and putting it into the software that everyone can benefit from as a company.
I mean, that's a great point. It's interesting. We recently had an engagement the other week, and what I love about the data that we ingest today from our platform is actually that we have our own scoring, our own proprietary view of the world, but we can also see what everyone else sees. So we can see where there are errors. We can see where we can go in and talk to a company. And it's getting to the stage now that because of this system, because of Suzy, companies are actually coming to us and they're saying, hang on, guys, this is what we can see, but what can you see? And this is just another level of engagement of a company. They know they want to be sustainable. They know what they want to be perceived as sustainable, but it just gives them even more credibility maybe when they go to their board and they say, look, we need more budget or etc. You can imagine the scenario. And for me, just going further, I really feel like, yes, it's true today that 90% of the S&P 500 companies have sustainability reports, their own individualized sustainability reports. And that used to be in something like the annual report. So people are saying, yes, this is much more important these days. When I first started, nearly 20 years ago, it wouldn't have even been 10%, right? Maybe 25 if you were lucky. But I suppose now as we execute this and as we become this ESG shaper, I just feel like perhaps the frontier is engaging and really making sure that you're constantly having a dialogue with these companies. So I wonder if you just give us some examples from your side. I mean, where have you seen investment teams really do engagements well, and how have they collaborated with your teams?
So I'd say that part of the education we've done over the years with investment teams has been, what is a good engagement? And we have a series of different tools we've developed around the training of how to approach engagement. How do you get the right research in front of yourself? How do you think of the materiality, both to the sector and then afterwards to the company itself? How do you carry that conversation that maps an engagement on an issue? And let's say, for example, if it's climate change, how that climate change plays out in a sector and within the business itself, and to ensure that there's a goal-oriented approach to that engagement discussion to achieve an outcome. All those are tools we have developed in-house. That's a lot of what you probably knew coming here, but I think that we've standardized a lot of that, and we've put together in Suzy a mapping on materiality of the different sectors and then within them the companies that will allow for questions to be put together through that software at your front office to see what are the key questions that we think should be brought up with a company that you could do on your own, or often is the case, we do that in partnership between more of a sustainability expert within my team working with you with the more PM view of that company, where you think that company is at, to arrive at the question and dialogue that we can then map a 12-month, 18-month, 24-month window of what we're looking to achieve with the engagements that we take on.
Yeah, I mean, one of the more recent examples is we were doing a very specific engagement on understanding the recyclability of a housing products company. And honestly, I can say that having an internal person who focuses on biodiversity and plastics, having someone who focuses on governance, we were all on the call because we might know a little bit more about the company and the economics and how it works. But when you bring all that together and you get to speak to the CEO or the board, however you're going to approach that, you can really feel that they take us more seriously. And I think that's just as important. You've not just got the big brand of Allianz behind you, but you've also got very specific, well-articulated questions that have outcomes. And that's where I've seen this be really powerful. I suppose
maybe I could add one thing to that, Giles.
Please.
Which is that I think that the idea of bringing strategies into the engagement connected to our overall corporate strategy, that has proven to be another way to get a cohesive message from Allianz GI about what we stand for. Yeah. And so you've been part of those discussions, and we have 3 key thematics that we're doing around sustainability: climate change, inclusive capitalism, planetary boundaries. And so on the biodiversity one, that will be part of our planetary boundaries thematic. And what we really seek to do is bring that into an engagement discussion with specificities to the sector and the company, and then extend it all the way from engagement to the voting exercise. Yeah. And that's a lot of what we've been doing with a bit more of a punchy, impact-oriented approach to public equities that, let's say 3 years ago, we didn't have that capacity, that ability, the tools. And now I think we have that at really the level of the portfolio managers to decide how active do you want to be? How activist do you want to be when you're thinking about the holdings that you have?
So thank you for that.
投资一定有风险，基金投资有赚有赔，申购前应详阅公开说明书。